that's one of the things that we'll do today is I want to film some little segments with each buzzbait and kind of explain, you know, the thought process behind each one and why you have, you know, different versions and different ones. I did play with weights and blade combinations a bunch to get things to where they're right for the, you know, generally just to where they're right, because sometimes if you got too heavy of a head or too big of a blade, then you just get too much torque and the buzzbait doesn't want to run right. So it takes some tweaking to get it all right, which I've already done. Yeah, basically I've already done that for all those baits. But no, I mean, certainly you can, and that's why, you know, he's got the extra heads that you can order. You know, that's one of the neat things about it, is that, you know, you can order one buzzbait and order 3 or 4 extra heads, and then you got, you know, different colors. You got a buzzbait that you can then, you know, if you wanted a white one, or you wanted the bad shad, or you wanted the, you know, that little guy got it as soon as it hit the water. Come here, come here. Little bitty guy. But he got it, I mean, as soon as it hit the water, he was on it. Tell you, it's been really neat catching the fish on the spinnerbait. Man, I've been catching just a ton of fish on the spinnerbait. Which is kind of nice, because I haven't, you know, the spinnerbait's kind of gone away, but just, we haven't had, you know, typically for me a spinnerbait's a dirty water kind of bait, and we haven't really had a whole lot of dirty water. So, you know, but I got to kind of messing around with some things and came up with this, you know, with this version of a spinnerbait, and it's really a great deal for, you know, even this clearer water that we've got now. 3 little willow leaf blades, a real natural looking color skirt, and it just works out real well. But, you know, this little buzzbait, call it the beater, and it is just an awesome little bait. I've used versions of this thing for so long over the years. But the neat thing about this little bait is that the blade, when this blade spins, it actually hits the head of the buzzbait, and that's what makes the noise, and that's why we call it the beater, because the blade beats on the head. But it creates a lot of sound. It's a really cool thing around grass. If you're fishing lakes that have a lot of grass, this buzzbait will absolutely call those fish out of the grass. It makes them mad. It calls them out around wood. If there's a fish around, he will smash it. And that's one of the other really neat things about it, is the strikes are typically violent. I mean, just very aggressive strikes when they do hit it. It's a pretty neat thing. If there's a fish in an isolated piece of cover and you make repeated casts, if he's there, eventually he'll get mad and he will come up and eat this thing. There was a tree, I was on Lake Sinclair in Georgia. Had never fished the lake before, and we just kind of went over there kind of exploring, and I was back in the back of a creek, and there was a big laydown back there, and it just, all the right conditions, and I just knew there had to be a fish in there. And I took this buzzbait and I made 13 casts. I counted them because I knew there was a fish there, and I made the exact same cast 13 times. On the 14th time, I caught a 5-pounder. You know, being able to make that longer cast really helps in terms of covering water. You know, this buzzbait's being able to, you want to be able to throw that bait out there a long way, cover a bunch of water. One of the reasons why I like a buzzbait so much is just that you can do just that. You can cover a ton of water with it. And when you're either, when you're practicing for a tournament, or if you're, just out fun fishing, during the course of a day, a lot of times how much water you can cover will dictate how many fish you can catch. Unless you just get into an area that's got a bunch of fish in it, a lot of times you've got to cover a bunch of water to figure out where the fish are at, or to find a concentration of fish. And so if you're not covering water, if you're not covering a lot of water, then you're probably not exposing your bait to that many fish. And then you're not going to catch as many. And that's where, a buzzbait's really great, because you can make a bunch of presentations, cover a bunch of water, and give yourself the opportunities to catch a bunch of fish. And they may not feel like chasing this little buzzbait, but you keep running it over their head, and they just get, I think they get mad. I mean, judging by the strike, I think they just get mad at it. And, we'll come up there and eat it. Come here, come here, come here. Sweet. The beater captures one. All right. Not a giant, but yeah, it's a good little fish. Wow. Nice. Healthy little Lake Wylie fish on the beater. See, this is the original. On True South Custom Lures, when you go to the RW series and you're looking at the buzzbaits, this is the original, and this is the squealer. There's two of them on the original. There's the squealer, this is the squealer, and it's got, when you get it, you order it, if you notice this rivet is rusted, that's intentionally. What we actually do is, there's a process that, John at True South goes through to actually pre-rust the rivet. There are times when getting a bait that will squeal, they absolutely like it, and you just have to kind of, play with different baits to see when, but there's definitely times when the squealing is a good thing. This is one of the things about the RW series. This is a design that I've worked with and played with for probably the last 3 years, really. I mean, I've probably been going on 3 years now working on this, taking and joining the buzzbait frame to the actual head of the buzzbait by way of a split ring. I've tried several different versions. Turns out that the split ring just happens to be the most, durable and expedient. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into this, but with this frame being twisted closed here, twisted closed here at the eye, makes it a lot more rigid, makes it a lot stronger. You get a lot more durable. It's going to last a lot longer. With this head swiveling and pivoting the way that it does, as that buzzbait's coming through the water, this head, in the way that it's designed, will ride perfectly horizontal, so that hook is in the perfect position when that fish comes up to eat it. It'll get him right in the top of the mouth. There's a method to the madness. We've got this weed guard on here because one of the problems that I ran into initially during testing was, if I didn't have a weed guard, when you bumped a piece of wood cover, this head would actually turn over and get stuck. That's a problem with the buzzbait, because you really want to throw it in that really heavy cover. So we came up with this. It's a light weed guard. If you'll take it periodically and just kind of flex it, that will help to keep that hook covered up so it doesn't get hung, but it's not a fish guard. It's not enough that it's going to keep the fish from being able to get hooked up. So it's really a great deal, but this, it really helps you in terms of being able to hook the fish. Once you get them hooked, you keep them hooked up. Again, that's why we went to this big hook. This is actually the same hook that I'm using on the RW series jigs. It's got a really sharp point. It's got a big barb, so that once it goes in, it stays in. You're not going to have a problem losing fish on this bait. And that's, you know, important, because I would rather not even get the bite than get the bite and lose the fish. So I want to make sure that when I stick a fish, he stays stuck. So, and that's just some of the features of the RW series buzzbait. Now, one of the things that I've been, you know, trying to do, like in this instance, you know, some of this wood is scattered out kind of far, and so I'm trying to make a little bit longer cast to reach it. This is where this long-range bomber comes into play. This bait, you know, you have crankbaits for different depth ranges. You know, you have spinner baits for different situations. You have different jigs for different situations. Same thing with a buzzbait. They're all just different tools for different situations. You know, I use a buzzbait a lot. It's a, like I said, it's a different tool for a different situation. One of the things that I do is when I go to a new lake, a buzzbait is one of my primary practice tools. It's a search tool that I use to help find fish when I go to a new lake. This long-range bomber is the deal. It is the one that I will use the most. And in situations like this, where some of this wood cover is hard to reach, because it's so flat, it's so shallow. It's deep enough for the fish to be there, but I don't want to get my boat real close. I don't want to spook the fish, so I'm having a hard time reaching it. So what I'm going to do is put on this bad boy. And the thing about this bait, it's got, and the reason we call it the long-range bomber is it's got a 3/4 ounce head. I mean, that's a 3/4 ounce head. A lot of weight. Got a large offset blade, so it puts off a lot of vibration. Of course, I'm putting my trailer hook on it. You know, that's the other thing that's neat about all these jigs, and it's the same design, split ring. All the True South Custom Lures are hand tied, you know, which is awesome because you don't ever have to worry about the skirt falling down. It's one of the most annoying things in the world, is to have your skirt fall down every time a fish takes a shot at your bait, or you try to cast, or you jerk, or whatever the case may be. But, oh, that's a lot easier to throw. But that long-range bomber, you can take it and throw it out there, and just like that, one jumps on it. Little guy, but yeah, that's, again, that was a piece of, yeah, little bitty guy. But you know, that's a piece of wood cover that was far enough out there. I was having a hard time reaching it with the original. So this is where that long-range bomber and being able to make that longer cast really makes a difference. I mean, I can throw that thing a lot further. I'm gonna be able to cover a lot more water, a lot more efficiently. And it's got that bigger blade on it, so it displaces more water, makes a little more noise. But that heavy head, the cool thing is that 3/4 ounce head allows you to really, you can twitch and jerk this thing, you can fish it pretty fast, and it'll run true. That's one of the things that I really tried to do, is make sure that all these baits almost will run true. They'll run vertically no matter how fast you fish them. A lot of times a buzz bait, if you reel it too fast, it'll turn over on the side. The head doesn't have enough weight to counteract the torque from the blade. This bait, you know, you can throw this thing out there and flat smoke it, and you know, it's going to run true with that 3/4 ounce head. And that's one of the things with all the RW series baits that I really tried to make sure these baits are all going to run true. And this, my friends, is the shad spawn bait. One of the big things that happens every spring is the threadfin shad spawn. And it's a primary pattern that is run all over the place on lakes, you know, in the Carolinas. And if you've ever been around those shad when they spawn, when they're going down the rocks or they're along the floats on the boat docks, they sound a lot like that. you get these little fluttering, this little fluttering sound. And so when I fish, I like to fish it in kind of this pumping motion where you get that blades fluttering. And this is the small size. We make two sizes. These are the small blades, and there's another size. It's got a little bigger blades. It makes a little more noise. Kind of depends on the size of the shad. If where you live you have real big shad, then that bigger size would probably be better, because it's going to make more noise. It's going to be closer to the sound that those bigger shad are making when they're spawning.
A lasting touch is Rock Hill's best kept secret. We offer full service repair, refinishing, and restoration of your treasured furniture pieces. Chair caning and seat weaving is also available. A Lasting Touch proudly serves residents of York County and South Charlotte. Pickup and delivery is conveniently available on Saturdays for those who need help with larger items. A Lasting Touch also has a retail sales area offering antiques, gifts, home decor, used furniture, and more. Remember, a lasting touch means lots of style without spending a lot of money.
For the best selection of firearms, visit Sportsman Inc. Try out our 2 pistol ranges. We buy, sell, and trade guns. Sportsman Inc. is a full-time gunsmith on site, and we offer concealment classes. You'll find everything you need for hunting and fishing at Sportsman Inc., Hands Mill Highway in Rock Hill.
Who isn't tired of tangled fishing rods, bent, or broken rod guides? Then you need the Rod Jimmy. The Rod Jimmy makes it easy to protect your valuable fishing rods with easy on and off protection. Made of durable materials for a lifetime of use, the Rod Jimmy will more than pay for itself with one season. Say goodbye to tangled rods and lines. Store and carry more rods securely and easily with the Rod Jimmy. Order yours today at therodjimmy.com. That's therodjimmy.com.
This is a buzzbait that is near and dear to my heart. I have done a lot of damage with this big bait, big black buzzbait. Awesome at night. I mean, and it's available in different colors, so you can get it and fish it during the day. It's awesome. Anytime you want a big, slow buzzbait that really displaces a lot of water, the Night Rider is the ticket. I can't tell you how many fish I have caught on this thing, but it's that great big old blade, just churns along. It displaces a lot of water. The fish they hear it, they feel it from a long way off, and that's what makes it so great at night. But also, when the water's cold, if the water's real muddy, this is also, a great time to fish a bait like this. That giant blade just displaces so much water that the fish really feel the vibration from it. And like I said, it is available in other colors, so you don't necessarily have to get it in black. But if I was fishing it at night, I would certainly have a black one. And I will have some other colors, some whites and some different colors for when the water gets cold. And yes, I just did skip a buzzbait. That is one of the neat things about this head design in this bait. It wasn't intended this way. It just worked out this way. The head on this bait is real flat, and the thing skips pretty darn good. So it's kind of a sidebar, which is cool because I like to throw a buzzbait around boat docks a lot, but it turns out that this one actually skips pretty darn good. So you can skip it in, around, and under boat docks pretty good. And it's all the RW series baits. Ah, dang! I never really got a hold of him good. Damn! I hate that, man. That fish came off. That sucks. That really bugs me. I don't know how much it does. It like to lose a fish, just freaking eats me up. you know, a lot of times the water gets so clear that you need a bait that you can fish real fast. In a lot of instances, like a little bit smaller profile. And right now up on Lake Norman, the spots are eating this bait. It's super small. I mean, it's a lot of the bait fish they're spitting up is an inch and a half long. I mean, it's just this little bitty bait. So you need a bait that provides a little bitty profile, and you'll see when this thing is in the water, it just has a really small profile. The blade doesn't displace a lot of water, so it just gives that smaller presence, but it allows you to fish it real fast, which is one, something I like to do anyway, but two, just a really good thing for that situation. It's got this little bitty blade, a 3/8 ounce head, and you know, then a big hook, and then I'm going to rig a trailer hook behind it like I always do. This is where a 7:1 gear ratio reel is an absolute must, and because you're going to make a fairly long cast, and being able to get that bait, get that little hummer up, and keep it up on top. That little blade really doesn't provide a lot of lift, so you really do need a reel that's got a real fast gear ratio to it. One of the things that a lot of folks don't know or realize that you can do with a buzzbait, if you notice that if you're reeling a buzzbait and you notice that it's wanting to turn on its side, a lot of times that's because the torque from the blade, the weight of the head isn't enough to offset the torque from the blade. And what you can actually do is take and bend the wire that the blade is on one way or the other to offset the torque, to try and counteract the torque on that from the blade a little bit, and that'll help that buzzbait run a little more true. You know, if you get a buzzbait that doesn't want to run perfectly straight up and down in the water, like I said, you can tweak that blade just a little bit to offset that torque. I do this for a living. Between the guiding and the tournament fishing, yeah, fishing is my livelihood. It is what I do, and it is so nice to be able to have the baits that I need built the way that I needed them to be built. You know, there's going to be different points of argument. People are going to say, oh, well, you don't need a big hook, you don't need a big barb, you don't need this, you don't need that. I'm telling you, for my mental well-being and my confidence and from my experience, these things all help you catch more fish. Having the big hooks, having the big barbs, all those things help to get more fish in the boat. And I know I certainly feel a heck of a lot better with it, and I just won't be without it. And it's so nice working with John at True South and having this stuff just the way I want it. It is a really, really good feeling. The little bluegill up there pecking on the tail of that thing. See, and this is totally, different than probably what most people, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, sun's up, bright blue skies. Most people probably aren't thinking about throwing a buzzbait, middle September under these conditions. And it's not ideal, it's not the most ideal conditions for doing this. But I'm just out here running around, playing with some new toys, and kind of wanting to show this stuff off a little bit, show everybody. But it's just kind of one of those things. That one just boiled on it right there. Come on, you little sissies, bite it, dang. And what it is, there's something, either they're just really not in the mood to chase the bait down, or whatever the case is. Something not quite right about the situation, why they're not biting it. Because, and that's two, you know, one there and one over there that have come up, boiled on it or nipped at it, but not eating it. Damn it. Even with the trailer hook. Yeah, the thing about it is don't really, you know, with this RW series and the spinnerbait, it's not like I've, you know, recreated the wheel or anything. It's a spinnerbait just like most other spinnerbaits. The key differences are that, you know, using a twist wire and then using a bigger, longer shank hook, and the blade combination really, you know, just happens to be a blade combination that for, you know, fishing a bait relatively fast or in clear water, I've really had a lot of success with. But that twist wire versus an R-bend, you know, just makes the bait a lot stronger, makes it a lot more durable. You know, I finally, the first prototype that I got, it finally broke after about 50 fish. Yeah, and fishing it for about, probably 2 weeks, and probably caught, I mean, and that's not an exaggeration. I mean, I've probably caught 50 fish on it. I mean, had several guide clients use it. I had one gentleman beating it, you know, off of docks and things of that nature. But that R-bend wire, you know, has a tendency to stretch a little bit more when you catch fish versus this twist wire. All the stress is on the, you know, goes from the hook point to the line tie, and it doesn't really open, so you don't get a lot of stretching in that wire. It tends to make it a lot stronger, a lot more durable. Because the worst thing in the world is to have a spinnerbait break and, you know, you get the blades back and the fish gets away. In this instance, when it breaks, you know, you'll lose the blades, but you'll get the fish, which is, you know, ultimately I want the fish. You know, I can do without the blades. I, you know, replace those with that 3 or 4 pounder that you needed in that tournament. A little harder to replace than a set of spinnerbait blades. And oh God, I jerked it away from us. Threw it up there and saw the fish come, and he pushed a wake up there behind it, and I got excited and jerked it away from him like a dummy. A little pot of bait right there. Fishing with Rusty is made possible by these great sponsors.